It's just a reality that when I get anxious, I'm going to get red. And it doesn't mean that I'm scared. It doesn't mean that I'm shy. Anxiety is sometimes a reality. We just have to figure out ways that we can be okay.
Welcome back to the Be Real, Be Well project. Today's topic is anxiety. All of us experience anxiety on some level, but most of us don't really talk openly about it. So today, let's have an honest conversation about anxiety.
I'll be really anxious because I have to confront someone or do some really hard thing or share something or present.
For me, I have test anxiety because I know that on my grade, it gives me like a lot of anxiety.
Some triggers for me kind of make no sense. Like it can be from going on an elevator to just sitting in a room. Like it can be anything, and sometimes there's no reason for it. It just kind of happens.
I think it's figuring out relationships and how to manage them and finding balance in life.
In most of my classes, we're going at a fast pace. It's not enough time for me to fully process what's going on and also to actually get what I need to get done.
School, grades, family issues.
There are moments where it just the crippling anxiety where it's I don't know, trains come off the tracks and there's no stopping it, and now you're just going down this rabbit hole.
Grades is the number one thing.
Sometimes I do have social anxiety, and I kind of still do, even though it may not seem like it, but sometimes asking teachers questions give me anxiety.
Thinking about the future and what places you want to go to and what you want to do with your life, that becomes stressful.
Social media is probably a big reason that a lot of people have anxiety, because you're constantly comparing yourself to everything that you see. Whether it's judging your own body in accordance to what other people look like, or if it's not being invited places and everyone's posting about it.
Homework, and that can be really, really stressful for me.
And we're anxious because we say things and do things that we don't understand, and we're wait, why did I do that? And it's I don't know, we're trying to figure out our own autonomy.
It's dread of something coming and not really knowing where to put that, because maybe I should be nervous about this presentation that I have, but the crippling anxiety doesn't help.
Now, statistics show that anxiety is the #1 mental health condition that people are struggling with. So what exactly is anxiety? Well, anxiety is typically defined as a combination of worry, a feeling of dread or fear, along with physical sensations that for many feels really uncomfortable. So let's take a deeper look at the relationship between anxiety in the brain and anxiety in the body. Let's first discuss the prefrontal cortex, or as I like to call this part of the brain, the thinking center. This is where we take in new information, we use problem solving and logic. Now, the interesting thing about the prefrontal cortex is that it temporarily shuts down or gets muted when the brain senses some sort of danger. Let's take a look at how and why this happens. So in the lower part of your brain, there's an area called the amygdala, or as I like to call it, the alarm center. And when the amygdala senses some sort of danger, it essentially flips on almost like a light switch would, like an alarm center, and it temporarily shuts down or mutes the prefrontal cortex, which makes it very difficult for us to use problem solving and logic in these circumstances. The amygdala also sends a signal to the rest of our body to get ready to defend itself in a dangerous situation. So imagine if a wolf or a scary animal were chasing you. Your amygdala would light up and activate your body and your nervous system to propel it into motion into what we call the fight, flight, or freeze response in order to keep you safe. And when your nervous system gets activated, it means that your heart rate increases, your breathing gets shallow, your muscles get tense, sweat glands get activated, and pupils dilate so that you're ready to act. Well, you're probably thinking, wait, if I have anxiety, that's not a life and death situation. Why does my body respond as if it is? So that's the tricky thing about the amygdala. It doesn't know the difference between real danger and just anxiety. So what that means is when the amygdala gets activated due to anxiety, you'll have lots of physical symptoms.
It's like my lungs kind of clench up.
all the stomach, and you don't want to move because it's just all concentrated.
My legs will start twitching for some reason.
And it's also in the head as well, and you get very nervous about certain things.
I'll kind of start to get like fidgety, like I might like bounce my leg.
And I get red very easily. So if I'm put on the spot, as I would totally turn bright red if I was put somewhere uncomfortably.
My heart can sometimes beat faster and I might start to sweat a little bit.
Sometimes I like start shaking. It's like in my legs and like I just like randomly like start fidgeting.
Like my thoughts start to go really quickly.
I feel like when I'm anxious, I'm not like aware of how anxious I am because I'm just like getting really tense and all these like physical symptoms, but I'm just like so in my head that I'm not paying attention.
I'll get tunnel vision. Something that I'm looking at will be clear, but then everything around it will kind of go a little blurry.
There's definitely like a bad feeling like right here in my chest.
Like a bit sore, like I don't move a lot.
It just feels like I'm gonna cry.
I won't think straight.
I feel this tightening in my chest. It's like I can't breathe all the way. Have this constant kind of sick feeling, a little bit nauseous maybe.
Let's talk about the different levels of anxiety. So low levels of anxiety are typical for many of us. Our thoughts and sensations come and go throughout the day, but we find ourselves recovering from anxiety quickly and fairly easily. I also wanted to mention that low levels of anxiety aren't necessarily a bad thing. When our nervous system gets activated, sometimes the sensations that we feel give us the amount of energy that we need to focus and to actually get lots of things done. Medium levels of anxiety can feel intense at the moment. We often will notice our thoughts rushing and our physical sensations can feel pretty overwhelming. Many people who experience this level of anxiety also report feeling pretty exhausted when the anxiety subsides. In a moment, I'll be talking about high levels of anxiety. But regardless of the type of anxiety that you experience, all anxiety is tiring. I like to think of the brain and the body almost as if it's an engine. So imagine if you have anxiety. Your brain and body are running at a very high level. Now we all know that brains, bodies, and engines can't run at a high level for a really long time. Otherwise they'll burn out. And so it's really important that you develop good and healthy coping skills to help you down-regulate your engine or your body and get that amygdala switch to turn off.
Having tools to help you with it, just knowing like, oh, this helps me when I feel this way.
Let's use the acronym MISTY to look at coping skills that you can potentially consider. The M stands for movement. It's really important that we get outside, we move our bodies, and we breathe in fresh air.
If I don't move or like hike or do something physical in my week, like I feel like that will affect me throughout the whole week.
You know, like play basketball or something.
I also like to like shake everything out, you know, like learned that in improv, but it actually works, just like shaking and just like breathing.
I stands for intentional breathing.
Like breathe in and out and know like it's gonna be okay.
Taking a couple deep breaths.
Now you're probably thinking, well, we breathe all the time, but intentional breathing really just means that you have to become aware of and control your breathing to some degree. So let's try for a moment some intentional breathing using this breathing ball. And if you don't have a breathing ball, you can simply use your hands. So what we're going to be doing is inhaling through our nose for 4 seconds, holding our breath for 4 seconds, and exhaling through our mouth for 4 seconds. Ready? Inhale through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath, 2, 3, 4, and exhale through your mouth, 2, 3, 4. There are so many ways to intentionally breathe. Try them for a few moments and then put your hand on your chest and let your lungs re-regulate and see how much better you feel. The S stands for self-talk, which I know sounds strange because people don't tend to walk around talking to themselves. But you can literally, in your head, talk to your anxiety and say, hey anxiety, I know that you're trying to keep me safe from danger, but I'm actually okay. Or you can tell yourself, I got this, you can get through this, or I'm gonna be okay.
And I went to swim last night. I felt a little bit anxious and it was rough, but I was fine. That security of you're gonna be okay, you can do this, it's fine, you're good. That That makes it easier to do that stuff.
T stands for simply talking to someone.
What's really important is letting it all out, telling people that you're closest to, and talking to someone so that you can get it off of your head.
Having someone to talk to about it, like, that's really important because it helps you process your feelings.
It's always good to have someone that you trust that you can process your feelings with. And finally, E stands for engage your senses. Choose any one of your senses and literally do anything that's soothing to you.
I have been listening to music a lot.
I like to have something to listen to in the background while doing something else. It helps me focus on that thing and also keeps my mind off of the things that I don't want to think about.
For me, reading helps a lot. Watching a YouTube video or something like that.
I mean, I really like meditation. It's been really helpful for me.
Pressure is one of the biggest things that I've noticed that helps quell my anxiety. So pressure on my chest if I'm feeling particularly anxious right here. And then I'll get my friends to just squeeze me.
Your brain will get the message that your body is safe when you do these kinds of things. So using coping skills is really important, but sometimes when we experience high levels of anxiety, some of those coping skills might not feel like they're enough. So let's now talk about the signs and symptoms of having high levels of anxiety. Some signs and symptoms that you're experiencing more severe levels of anxiety are having persistent and recurring and sometimes irrational thoughts or worries. You might constantly be asking yourself what if questions, and you also might be worrying about what will happen in the future. Your anxiety might change your thoughts and behaviors, and you might feel unable to be around your friends or severely anxious in school or out in the world. And you might be feeling very sad and alone.
It's very scary to not know what's happening, and you feel very isolated and alone from everyone because you feel like no one understands what you're going through.
Don't let anyone minimize your anxiety or tell you that you're overreacting. Anxiety is real and it's hard. But one thing for you to know is that anxiety is one of the most treatable mental health conditions. It's just about finding the right person or people to talk to get you support in order to help you through it. One thing to consider is talking to somebody that you trust. But a second and really important step is to consider talking to someone like a school counselor, a doctor, or a mental health expert, because they know a lot about anxiety and they'll know what next steps to take in order to get you through it. The most important thing for you to know is to not go through it alone.
It might be scary to do this, but if you need it, ask someone for help. If you're going through a really hard time, let someone know how you feel about it, and just know that you're not alone, and that there's ways to help it and there's solutions. Yeah, it might not be super quick, but there are solutions and you can get help. You're not alone.
Something interesting to think about is that we really only have control over 3 areas in our life. Number 1, our thoughts. Number 2, what we envision or imagine. And I know those are our thoughts too, but it happens deeper in our subconscious. And number 3, our behaviors. So imagine yourself going through your life, encountering challenges like anxiety, and feeling much more confident and equipped to deal with them. And hey, even if you have it all figured out already, maybe you can help a friend who needs support with those types of challenges. But don't forget to take moments to pause, breathe, check in with yourself, be kind to yourself, and as always, be real and be well.
Jolly Rancher watermelon.
I will warn you, I'm one of the kids that will just randomly break out in laughter.
Inhale through your nose.
Alright,
How much is this? Are you kidding? No, I'll bring this up. You're okay. So take those. And then next.
Today's topic. Inhale through your nose. Inhale, exhale.
wasn't at this time.
Yes.